Welcome to today's Coach's Corner. Today, I came again to encourage you to continue on your journey of walking and working with God in everything you think, feel, need to do, and desire to do, utilizing this simple practice of interactive gratitude. Since this practice is so straightforward and simple, it's ironically easy to overlook its beauty and dismiss its power. It reminds me of Andrew in the story of feeding the 5,000. He said to Jesus in John 6:9, "Here is boy with 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish. But what difference will these make among so many?" Like Andrew, we often fail to see the potential in offering our small moments, whether pleasant or uncomfortable, to God and what He can do with them. Just as those loaves and fish fed thousands, 5,000s, our small offerings, our inner world as it is, have the potential to yield miraculous result. The miracle that day was made possible by a boy's simple gift. In this way, we are the gift that God is looking for. God is looking for the same openness and curiosity in each one of us that He saw in the boy from the feeding of the 5,000. A biblical passage that has particularly helped me cultivate this sense of openness and curiosity as I develop a habit of interacting with God in both pleasant and unpleasant moments is Proverbs 3:5. It says, "In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths." Jim Wilder and Chris Corsi, in their booklet Sharing Manual, explain that the original meaning of the verb acknowledge is to detect if God is there. We all desire for God to direct our path. In this verse, we are encouraged to detect if God is present in all our ways. In essence, God invites us to develop a mind like a detective and heart like a child. Both embody openness and curiosity and favors a slower pace to observe things closely. Can we continue to encourage one another to cultivate this openness and curiosity, sharing how we experience God turning our fright into delight through His parental presence in every breath we take? As you continue practicing interaction with God in moments of pure delight and moments of fright, you will begin to notice something special. God's brilliant method of healing your trauma, especially trauma A. Many of you here may already be familiar with the definition of trauma A and trauma B, which Jim Wilder and Life Model Works have described simply yet elegantly. They explain that trauma A refers to the absence of good things that should have happened but did not, while trauma B refers to the presence of bad things that should not have happened but did happen. When we discuss trauma, we often think of what's known as trauma type B, noticeable and intense events like wars, disasters, accidents, the death of loved ones, and physical or sexual violence. Because these events are so big and bad, it makes sense and feels legitimate for those affected to seek help. However, trauma type A involves the absence of necessary positive experiences, good things, that should have happened but didn't. This type of trauma is less visible, remaining hidden not only from outsiders but often from the sufferers themselves. This invisibility makes trauma type A particularly challenging to recognize and heal. Many people manage to get by or even succeed despite these missing experiences, which can make us blind or numb to our need for support or help from others and God when we are affected by trauma A. Individuals affected by trauma A might not recall many specific traumatic memories, yet they frequently encounter symptoms that are negatively affecting the quality of their lives, especially their inner life. These symptoms typically show up in three categories: emotional dysregulation, negative self concept, and interpersonal difficulties. I share this information in case you find yourself struggling in this area and are curious about where to begin your journey of healing and growth. One of the items on a list of trauma A, identified by Jim Wilder and his colleagues in their book, Living from the Heart Jesus Gave You, particularly caught my attention. Number 2 on this chart, not having experienced being a delight. This means that you are not seen as a delight in the eyes of those who should have cherished you. The eyes looking at you fail to communicate that they were glad to see you, regardless of whether you brought them delight or fright. In other words, your delight was not amplified or synchronized by them, nor was your fright turned into delight through their parental presence. Like I shared earlier, it is harder to treat trauma A than trauma B, since trauma A is about absence of good things that were supposed to be there but was not there. Since we survive without them, we cannot tell that we need it now. In other words, since we did not get it, meaning we did not receive it, we don't get it. It's known fact among healing professionals that it is harder to treat trauma A than trauma B. Do you want to hear something so cool about God? Bible says that God is not only our perfect parents, but also our wonderful counselor. I would call God as our divine therapist. Do you know how God approaches our trauma A? Unlike some healing professionals who might view those suffering from trauma A as resistant to therapy or help, God doesn't force them to open their eyes to what they've been missing or mourning without their conscious awareness. Instead, He gently invites them to see and mourn what has been missing in their lives within the context of overflowing gratitude. Do you remember what Jesus said to a Pharisee named Simon about the woman who anointed his feet with expensive perfume? Luke 7:47 in the Message reads, "She was forgiven many, many sins, and so she is very, very grateful." If the forgiveness is minimal, the gratitude is minimal. This story illustrates that if you find yourself deeply touched or moved, feeling very grateful, it might be because you have longed for that gift since you lack it. Those who have yearned for something for a long time know the depth of its value when it finally arrives. Let me share John's gratitude posted on the wall of Win. He says, "I'm sincerely glad to be in my family, not because today was all smooth, but because even though there are moments of irritation, we can still recenter and return to connection. That is a dream come true for me. I grew up in a family where I wasn't sure what reconnection would look like or it would come. Just to be clear, I don't like the irritations and I wish my family would get their act together. But the only act I really have influence over is my own act. I'm still work in progress. I'm a piece of work a masterpiece. Even though it is conveyed through writing, you can tell there is a genuine sense of gratitude in John's words. He feels profoundly grateful for the gift of reconnection that his current family experiences after ruptures, a quality missing from his childhood, and one that contributed to his parents' divorce. This was one of his core wounds. You can see that the presence of reconnection in his current family is significant to him, as it fills the void of a quality he has long been longing for. This is how our divine therapist masterfully heals our trauma A. He fills the voice left by trauma A with his presence and opens our eyes to see what was missing. He's helping us to grieve through gratitude. This motivates me to come home to God in gratitude, delight, and fright, in fact, in all situations. Jesus turned water into wine. Jesus turned our fright into delight. He wants to turn our mourning into joy. People of light, we got this with the help of the Holy Spirit.